Tala efecto. Ah, sí, sí.
No se tiene que estar.
¿Aló?
Sí, está.
¿Aló?
Sí, está.
Perfect. Hello, good afternoon. This is Alexander Kaufman. We apologize for this. We just got our system back, and I hope we can retransmit now everything again. We'll turn off the audio shortly, but I'll be back in a second. Good afternoon, everybody. Alexander Kaufman back here out of Vitacura for this last race of the qualifying Grand Prix in Santiago, Vitacura. I have to apologize. We have to apologize for this glitch. We had a problem with the power, lost the power, and the whole system just fell apart. But we're back. And I hope that we can catch up with what the race is doing and follow the gliders. We'll try to reconstruct a little bit what happened. I hope that everybody can give advice that the transmission is back on live and that we are here back on track again. Okay, remember, this is a view now of the race, today's race from north to south. And the first part of the race was about 100 kilometers north to turn point number 2, Las Monjas. And from there it goes all the way back to the south, 116 kilometers to El Bronce, inside of the valley of Maipo. And the tactics, there were two tactics: either you stay outside of the mountains, the high mountains, or you use the energy on top of the high mountains. So we had at the beginning René Vidal leading the race together with Marius, and that looks like it has changed a bit, because we can see that Thomas Gostner is quite far ahead, and together with Marius. We'll take a look a little bit closer here on this to see what happened. Okay, here we are. We have a view from south to north. We can see clearly that Marius is leading the race, followed by Thomas Gostner. And we have Gilles Navas a little bit further back, Papa Quebec Whiskey, Sergio Campos, and René Vidal. So René Vidal is actually fifth right now in this contest, today's race. Let's see what is going on here. I have to set up a little bit the things here again so we can see everything. Dondele. Okay, there are some questions here. If Thomas is in a wave, I don't think that today we have wave conditions. We talked about the wind earlier, and there is no strong wind at these altitudes they're flying. There was about 15, 20 kilometers of wind, and definitely that is not enough to create a wave during that conditions. So I would guess that they were all thermaling, and they got this altitude with thermals, and they just crossing the valleys using that altitude. Clearly, Thomas and Marius took the lead of the race. Rene was leading earlier before turn point 2, and he fell back and was flying together with Hans Weiner, Gilles Navas, and I think Sergio Campos. There's a group of 4 gliders, and the rest is a little bit further behind. We can't say if the rest of the gliders actually touch turn point number 3 or not. We will try to see if we can get them on the screen. Yeah, we can see there are 2 gliders pretty far out there. It looks like it happened what a little bit predicted. They felt underneath that inversion line and felt out of the system that was actually working. That was the higher system in the higher mountains. Once you're underneath that inversion, you really have to struggle. That one glider here is Nicolas Becerra. Nicolas is fighting down there at a place called Laguna del Copin, and the ridge of El Copin. Copin is that lagoon that you can see here. And Whiskey Echo is Arturo Diaz. He has been struggling there and he is still fighting. We can't see the rest of the other 2 gliders I'm missing here. Mario Reyes. But let's see if we can get a signal later on of him and figure out where he is. Let's come back to the leaders of the race. Thomas Gosner and Marius. And let's see. Okay, looks like we're back online. Can anybody give me a signal if you can hear me or not? That would be great. So if there's any trouble, we can fix it and make this work right again. Okay, looks like. Puta, nos saca totalmente el hilo el tema. Excellent. Great. Thanks for the advice. You hearing me? Thank you. Thanks, Nicolas. Um, okay. Um, this was unfortunate. Sorry for it. Let's see if we can get back on track again. Okay, yeah, audio was just off. We were not discussing, but fixing another glitch here. Okay, well, I have a general view of the two-dimensional screen. Remember, not all of the gliders here are in competition, um, but definitely I can help you out with finding the ones that are. Um, the track is the right one. Jürgen Wenzel is here at the ski resorts in Farallones already. He looks being pretty far ahead. If he's in the race, he's leading this. He's at 3,700 meters, and it doesn't look like that there is any other glider ahead of him. Now, he took the decision to fly on the outside of the ridges and not to follow that valley I mentioned, the Valley of Olivares. So that is Jürgen Wenzel, 3,700 meters. And we have another glider a little bit further back that is not in the competition. Here, that is not in the competition. Now here, we have Gilles Navas, Papa Quebec Whiskey, Papa Quebec Zulu. This is Marius Plusauskas, and Thomas Gostner. René Vidal. I haven't been able to find René. There is René. Sorry. There is René, exactly. Okay, they're circling here on top of the Mina La Andina. They're trying to get high because if you get about 4,700 meters, you can cross these ridges and jump into the Valley of Olivares that I'm pointing out here. If not, you will have to turn around and fly on the outside, as Jürgen Wenzel is doing. Looks like Jürgen is leading this race right now. We don't have him on the screen on the 3D view, but here on the two-dimensional view, we can see him. So, MSC here. That is Jürgen. There is a glitch in his track, so we don't know if that is actually a live signal right now. In case of Rene, we can see Rene flew to the first turn point, came out. We have a glitch here in his signal, but he entered to the second turn point and stayed high and flew south. And he's now trying to get high to fly into the Valley of Olivares. And it looks like the rest of the gliders are trying to do exactly the same strategy here. This is Thomas Gostner. We will see Thomas basically doing the same. He marked the first turn point, and then he stayed on that easterly ridge, marked the second turn point, and came back high, flying south, but he's still on the other side. So that was quite a while ago. As they're flying so high right now, we get these glitches in the signals, and there are lagoons of information. So we have to be careful with the analysis of their position right now, especially if they fly into the Valley of Olivares. I will show you this on the 3D screen here. You can see here we have the pointer. This is a big glacier field, and here you need that 5,000 meters altitude to jump into the valley and put yourself on top of the easterly ridge of the valley to just speed down there and come to these second, third, and fourth turn point. If you can't get the 5,000 meter altitude here, you're forced to fly out on the east. So with these lagoons of information right now, we actually can't really tell where they are right now, because if they're back there in the valley, it's going to take some time until we get clean signals again. Okay, we can, there's this question now, how many kilometers to go? If they're flying south and they pass this area, they will have flown until now about 150 kilometers, 170 kilometers. So it is a little bit less than half of the task what they have flown until now. They started at 3 o'clock, and we're in an hour and 45 minutes into the race now. So if there is a question, if they can actually, if there is a final glide for the rest of the race, if you get above this glacier here that I mentioned, this area, I will zoom it in so you can see what that looks like. That is the glacier I was mentioning. If you can stay high on these ridges here, get your 5,000 meters. Thomas Gostner, the last time he had a signal, was there at 4,300 meters. So he needed a little bit more altitude to actually get this pass, fly through this pass into this valley and put himself on top of the east side of this valley. If he makes that, it is basically a final glide back home. Um, I will turn around the view and you will see what it looks like if you're on top of this glacier and you're flying south. I will put yourself together here with Thomas where we had his last signal, and you will be able to see what it looks like for the rest of the competition here. We will turn this around. You will see Thomas Gostner was here captured the last time. If he made the altitude, the last time he was flying, he was just on this side of the ridge. If he made the altitude 5,000 meter and he made this pass, he would have flown over to this side of the valley. Why would he have flown over this side? Because the wind comes in here and you get better lift on this side. Here you will have downdrafts of the winds that come over these mountains. So there's always a tendency to stay on this side. But if he would have made this pass, he would have just really speeded out there and flown to turn point number 3, flown back to turn point number 4, and this is all a ridge with good climb, a good lift, and good. It will keep you altitude, so you would have not lost any altitude, much altitude of what you have had when you crossed this pass. So it would have been basically one final glide, because everything after turn point 4 is flying westernly out to turn point number 5. That's out here, and then you'll be using the outer ridges, flying back to Santiago. So yes, if you got 5,000 meters, you could have done one final glide all the way back home. But the question is, if they made that altitude and flown out of here. Now, not having a signal of the gliders right now is because one of the antennas that captures the signal is on the outer side of these ridges where the ski resorts are. And the next antenna is on this ridge out here, that is San Ramon. So we don't have good coverage inside of here. Now, if we don't have signals, it means that they're flying in an area where there's no coverage. If they would be flying outside of here, we would have seen them. So I guess is that everybody made the altitude that flown and has flown into the valley of Olivares. And we will have signals as soon as they show up here. We will catch them with the antenna that we have set up on the mountain of San Ramon here on the easternly side of the valley of Santiago. I'll go back and take a look at what the two-dimensional screen is. Here on this two-dimensional screen, you can actually see the position of the antennas. This is one antenna, this is another antenna, and inside of here we have an antenna that is not working right now. So this is the one that actually would have given us coverage of the gliders flying through the valley of Olivares. We have a few gliders out here, but they don't belong to the competition. These are local pilots. Sorry. Yeah, once again, I just turned off the audio a little bit. We were straightening out here what gliders are in signal and others not. Um, this glider is not in competition. This one is not. And this one is Jürgen Wenzel that has a very bad signal on his glider. That was a signal that was sent out 20 minutes ago, but it's an issue on his glider. Papa Quebec Zulu, that is Hans Weiner. He's climbing here looking to make the pass into the valley of the Rio Olivares.
Walter de los 60.
We have a good signal, clean signal of Gilles Navas. He actually is at 5,000 meters. And interesting where he is. We'll try to show you his position and what he's doing. He's actually flying. He got high and he's staying on the west side of these ridges. It is not the most direct route, but what we don't know is if there is cloud formation inside of this valley, the Valley of Olivares, and that made him decide not to fly in here. Gilles also has not all the information and knowledge of this area here. Sometimes it's kind of spooky to fly into this valley because you don't see the exit. Sometimes you have clouds just on top of this, and you will have clouds here in the south, and you will not see the exit, and you don't know if you can exit there. If you have flown in there a few times, you have a good guess if depending on the coloration of the mountains that you see in front, you can guess if they're exposed to the sun or not, and you can take the chance to fly in there. If you don't have that experience, you stay in cleaner air and you use the route that Gilles is using right now, that what we're seeing here on the screen. You can see, as I mentioned, as soon as he showed up there, he's presenting a clean signal of his glider. Still, we don't have a signal of Thomas Gostner, and we don't have a signal here of Hans Weiner. That is here. It's unfortunate right now that we don't know about what is Marius doing. Thomas Gostner and René Vidal, they haven't sent out a fresh signal for a few minutes now. So once again, the only thing I can guess is that they decided to fly into the Valley of Olivares to take this route on the east side of the Valley of Olivares to turn point number 3 and 4. And that's why we are not seeing them. The antenna that is located inside of this valley is not functioning, and the next one is actually outside out of reach of this valley. So my only guess is that we're not seeing them because they took the decision to fly into the Valley of Olivares. As soon as they fly out of the valley, we will start to get signals again, and we can continue with them on the race with everything what's going on turn point 3, 4, and 5. There was just a small signal right now from Quebec Zulu. Quebec Zulu is the Chilean rookie pilot in the Grand Prix flying Aventus. He just sent out a signal here in the Olivares Valley. So this is a signal position that was sent out just a few seconds ago. So actually, we are right with our guess that they are flying into the Valley of Olivares on top of this ridge towards turn point 3 and 4. I will turn around the view. I will take a view from the south. almost on top of turn point number 3 and 4. And we just said that we had a clean signal of Hans Weiner in Papa Quebec Zulu, Ventus. Ventus 2 CT. I should know that fast because I used to fly that glider. I used to fly it together with my father. So it's a Ventus 2 CT. And now we have a clean signal of Gilles Navas here. I will see if I can close in with him and to see what his approach to the rest of the task is. Here is Gilles. Excellent. He's being followed by Sergio Campos. And Gilles is doing what we were describing. He climbed, and instead of flying into the valley on the east side, he decided to stay on the west side. And he's actually on top of the ski resorts now, reaching the area of the ski resorts. I can show you that in a second here. He's pretty high. Gilles is at 4,900 meters. Hans Weiner, who was flying in the back of this, on the other side of this valley, you can see it very well here in this picture. Gilles is staying here on the west side of the Valley of Olivares. This is the Valley of Olivares, and Hans Weiner is on the east side. As I said, if you get yourself on top of this with 5,000 meters, you fly along it, and you don't lose any altitude. You can see the altitude of Hans Weiner is 5,100 meters, so it's a little bit higher than Gilles Navas. And Gilles is now just crossing on top of the ski resorts here. You can see both ski resorts. This is the ski resort of La Parva. This is the ski resort, if you can see the pointer, the ski resort of Farallones. This is the mountain of Farallones, and this area here is called Valle Nevado. And Gilles is far above this, crossing now to the south. You can see here the constructions of the ski resort of Valle Nevado, very nice ski resort, and Gilles is up there with 4,850 meters flying south. We'll give you a perspective of the ridges that he's flying, and hopefully we can also see in this perspective Hans Weiner. This is actually Gilles flying along this ridge on the west side of the Valley of Olivares, and up here we have Hans Weiner flying on the east side of the ridges, a little bit higher as these ridges are higher. He stayed on top of them and using this energy flying south towards turn point number 3 and 4. They are forced to fly out of the valley, the Maipo Valley. This is the valley that we have down here. Actually, it's one of the contributaries of the Maipo. The Maipo is actually a river that flows on the next valley south. But they are forced to fly out to turn point number 3, to the turn point called Bronze, and then come back to turn point number 4. So they have to fly out the valley and fly back into the valley. For that, they will use the energy on top of these ridges on the south edge of these of this valley. I will zoom in with Gilles as we have a clean view of his trace. He's flying out there. Now we have a clear view of the trace of Hans Weiner and what he's doing. We can see Hans is a little bit further behind, but he's flying on top of the ridge of the Olivares Valley, and he's actually decided to climb there a bit. We'll give you a view where you can see the perspective towards the next turn points, and Gilles Navas, who's on the other side of this valley. You can see Gilles over here and Hans Weiner flying a little bit further back, but not much, and with a great difference in altitude of about 800 meters. It's good to see that we have a few viewers back on the screen now. We have about 33 people participating in this transmission, live transmission. Please remember, share this with your flying community, share this with your friends, share this with your family. Get people hooked and enthusiastic about gliding and about these competitions. I'm sorry that we had the interruption. Somehow it looks like we overloaded the system and one of the fuses just came out, and we had to set up the computers because they shut off, and we had to set up everything again. So sorry for that. It was not obviously intentional. This is a view from almost above, easternly view from above of this very nice and long valley of Olivares. The city of Santiago. You will see the finish line, and the start line is out there. And here you can see what is left of this race, today's race, the flying out of the valley to turn point El Bronce, and then they have to come back into the valley in turn point 4 at the Olivares Sur turn point, to again fly out and cross all these ridges all the way out to the outer portion of the Central Part Valley. After that, if you can maintain your altitude, switching from turn point 3 to 4, you can actually race out there. And once you're out there, you will see a very similar race, a finish race of what we had in the last days when they came back as the last turn point in the south. They will be flying at, I would say, not more than 1,500, 1,600 meters, using just the energy of the ridge of this easternly ridge of the valley, central valley of Santiago, and they will be flying from ridge edge to ridge edge, out and back, and using that energy, crossing once again from El Blanco. Here we have El Blanco to the Apoyo El Blanco, crossing the Maipo Valley over to San Ramon, and to the last turn point here, 3K, to get lined up with the finish line. It's kind of sad that we have right now very few gliders with a clean signal. I will check here on Sergio Campos, who is also one of our rookie pilots in the Grand Prix flying. And Sergio also decided, as Gilles Navas did, to stay on the westernly side. We should by now start to get clean signals of the rest of the gliders. Kind of strange that we have a signal of Hans Weiner, who's leading this right now because he's quite higher than Gilles Navas, and he's about in the same altitude or same distance in respect to the next turn point number 3. And then we have Sergio Campos, but we don't have any signal of Thomas Gosner. I'll check out the two-dimensional screen here, if you don't mind. I will take this out of the view that I'm transmitting, so I can play with it a little bit and get this sorted out. Yeah, it's basically the same information we see on the 3D screen. I still have Thomas up there at the almost 4,700 meters before crossing the line. I still have, um, I will set this in here so you can see it. Thomas is still, his last signal was sent out about 22 minutes ago. And here, this is René Vidal. That signal was sent out 10 minutes ago. He's flying above the area of the copper mine of Landina. Remember, this is the glacier of El Plomo. And that is the pass that you have to fly over to fly into the Olivares River. And it looks like all these gliders, they got caught on the north side of this pass and couldn't cross it. We have Marius Pluschauskas, we have René Vidal here, and we have Thomas Gostner here. And here we have a very bad signal of, our friend Jürgen Wenzel. The other gliders, they were actually able to fly out here. This is a glider that is not competing. Here we have Papa Quebec Sulu, our friend Hans Weiner, our rookie pilot. He's about to approach turn point number 3. And here we have, let me see, that is Gilles, I would say, Papa Quebec Whiskey. Yep. Exactly, Gilles is here. And let's see what Hans Weiner is doing on the... I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. We can see that Hans is flying towards turn point number 3. I positioned the camera just on the side of turn point number 3, and we can see Hans is approaching turn point number 3. Gilles Navas is up there, and Sergio Campos also. We see the flags of Thomas Gostner and Mario Pluskauskas in the far horizon further north. These are pretty old signals. We just checked them on the 2-dimensional screen, and I think my guess is that they got caught up here at the mining area de Landina, where there is no signal, the same as René Vidal and the same as Marius Pluschauskas. And the only ones that made it over this pass, the only one was actually Hans Weiner to fly on the east side of the Olivares, and Gilles Navas and Sergio Campos made it all the way around the El Plomo over the ski resorts and used the other side of this valley to approach turn point number 3. So it's a pretty surprising development of this race, if this is actually true with what's happening up there, that the expert pilots were caught up somehow in the area of the copper mine of Landina, and the other ones were actually capable of climbing. They were patient enough and climbed up and got there. Okay, I'm back with the audio. We're just checking. We have a 3-minute delay today. We managed to actually make this a little bit faster. We can see Hans Weiner. Hans Weiner is marked his turn point and is flying back to turn point 3.
Ahí le apareció Marius.
Okay, and Marius Puskauskas also got a signal on a 2-dimensional screen.
Yes.
That is Hans, and that is... Okay, here we have Marius. Marius is actually here. Let's see if he... here he is. He showed up. It looks like he's leading this because he is moving away from turn point number 3 and 4 towards the south, and he's using the ridges there to go for turn point number 5. In this view here, you will see Marius. Here is Papa Quebec Zulu. Sorry, here. Just marking now turn point number 4. Here we have Hans Weiner flying into turn point number 4. He will barely touch this turn point, as I guess. And then he will fly back. Yeah, he barely flew in. Let's hope that's enough to have a clean mark.
Oscar.
And Thomas Gostner is also further south. We're getting signals back of them. I will change the view and follow these guys so we can...
The only one who could go, Julian Benson could be.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here we go again. Perfect. Okay. Here I'll show you a view from the north in reference to turn point number 3 and 4. We have Marius Puskauskas leading this, followed by Jill Navas and Thomas Gostner. And here is Hans Weiner, who's also now flying out to go to turn point number 5. This glider here is Papa Quebec Whiskey, Sergio Campos, and I think he has to mark turn point number 3 and turn point number 4. The only plane and pilot that we're missing right now in terms of signal is René Vidal. I hope that René... Oh yeah, here we have a signal of René Vidal, and you will not like this because René Vidal is all the way up there in the north. We will get close to him to see what his status in terms of altitude and position is towards the track.
Have a mistake.
But it looks like he's fighting and fighting and fighting to get himself out of the copper mine.
Sergio Campos no fue al punto.
Oh. Unfortunately, Sergio Campos, we just saw that he actually had the altitude, but he forgot to mark, and unfortunately, one of the turn points. But well, the pilot that was actually on second place in the general position, the leading position of this Grand Prix, René Vidal, he was hoping to get a good position today, maybe to even get the first place out of Thomas Gostner, is far, 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 far behind of the pack that is leading this, really far behind, and fighting himself out of the copper mine of Los Andes. He's circling right now, a very weak thermal of about 0.5 meters. and I bet he's not very comfortable there in this position. I'll give you a view of where he is in terms of turn point number 3 and 4 and all the distance he still has to cover. So this is Rene, far, far north of turn point number 3 and 4. We can see the flag of Marius, a clean signal, the flag of Sergio Campos, Thomas Gostner, and this is about a distance of about 50 to 60 kilometers between Rene. And not only the distance here is the thing for Rene, it is the altitude. He is desperately trying to climb to cross these passes, and what he's seeing out of the cockpit is actually this. This is what he's seeing out of his cockpit, and he has to force himself up here on these ridges to cross further south. And so not only the distance he has to recover, but also the altitude in respect to the other pilots that already crossed turn point number 3 and 4. Let's see if we can join the ones that are leading this. If we can.
Tomás viene pelito adelante del Gilles.
Here we have a good view of Thomas Gostner, Gilles Navas, Marius Plushkauskas, and Hans Weiner, together with Sergio Campos.
Sergio se devolvió el punto.
Okay, here we have two different approaches to fly this out here. Thomas and Gilles, the flying out towards the Apoyo del Blanco, and then to fly south. And I will explain you a little bit why they're doing this. It's only a matter of, obviously, altitude. They have to pass these passes here, and they decided to stay on the side that actually generates more lift than these ridges here. If you experienced and you know this area, you could have actually stayed on a course that brings you faster and closer to that turn point, but they are deciding to go a little bit more conservative and take the longer route. Instead, Marius, I will put him in a view in comparison to Gilles and Thomas. Marius stayed further to the southeast, and he will actually cross this area a little bit higher. He's actually flying as the same altitude as Thomas. Thomas is 2,000, 3,000 meters, and Marius is 2,900 meters. I will put ourselves in the cabin of Marius, and you will see he has a good view of the passes. He's just crossing one of the ridges there, and what he has in front of him is El Blanco, and he can actually fly now this whole bowl and use all the energy, turn around El Blanco and fly along the ridge to turn point number 5, and then have a final glide back to Vitacura. Let us check what is the view out of the cockpit of Thomas Gostner, who's flying a little bit further northwest. Remember that Marius, he's showing up in this bowl and will approach El Blanco here. And Thomas took a little bit longer route. Here we can see now the flag of Marius. So Marius is actually has the advantage of, he's not higher than Thomas, but he took a straighter line towards the turn point. I think Thomas didn't see Marius. He's going with his experience in this area.
Si el Jürgen gana, se le dé Sergio
We were just
Capola.
analyzing a little bit out of without audio the positions here. Remember that the leading position until now, until race number today. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up here. We're racing number 6, and until number 5, the leader was Thomas Gosner with 33 points. René Vidal with 30 points, together with Marius Pluszczauskas with 30 points, followed by Jürgen Wenzel with 26 points. Now René, he's had a big step back in his race today. He's far behind, obviously Thomas, Marius, Gilles, and even Hans Weiner and Sergio Campos. The only thing is we don't know where Jürgen is, as Jürgen hasn't been able to fix his transmission system on his glider. So he might give us a surprise. We still don't know. But now, clearly, we can see that Marius took the right decision to stay on a shorter route on the inside, going straighter for turn point number 5. This is a view from the northeast view towards turn point number 5. I will make this a little bit simpler to understand now. If I turn this around from a southerly view, you'll be able to see the bowl of the city of Santiago and all these hills that we fly when we come back from the south. As I said, if I put myself in the altitude that they're flying, you can see they will be flying over these ridges, use the energy of these ridges, come out towards the turn point, come back, and then just fly with the energy of the ridges, passing El Blanco here back to Santiago towards the finish line. 3K that aligns them with the runway and the finish line. There's a question if Marius wins the race today, if this is the final race, if it gets 11 points or not. So I'm getting advice here that he receives 10 points if he wins it today. Marius has a total of 30 points. So with 10, he gets a total of 40. But who knows who's coming behind him, if it's Thomas or if it's Jürgen Wenzel or if it's Gil Navas. We don't have the information of Jürgen. But we can see that definitely Gilles is shortly behind Marius and Thomas Gosner also. we just had one glider landing, Nicolas Becerra and Papa Yankee Victor. So we can see it was definitely not an easy day to fly. A lot of the gliders made good altitude, but others, they just got caught up in bad flying conditions, bad air, as we call it. A good example is our friend René Vidal. Let's shortly see how René is doing if he got out of the area of La Andina. We also have right now landing Lima Whiskey Delta number 3, Mario Reyes. He's also landing right now. Here we have a view of René Vidal. René Vidal made it out of the area of the copper mine of La Andina, is flying past El Plomo towards the area of the ski resorts. He's not giving up. Here we have René Vidal. He will be passing the ski resorts. He has a ski resort area. He is El Colorado towards turn point number 3 and 4, and then to fly out to turn point number 5. Let's see who's now close to turn point number 5. It is Marius, definitely. He's flying into the turn point now, and he's being followed by Thomas Gostner, who's chased by Gilles Navas shortly behind him. Marius is just a few meters away from turn point number 5, the Laguna Chada turn point. We can see he's a few clicks, a few hundred meters out of the turn point. Maybe that's a kilometer or something like that. But after that, with this altitude, 2,400 meters, he will just turn around 180 degrees, come back to that ridge, and use the energy. He will do just clean ridge flying back all the way to Santiago. From that turn point, Chada, to Santa Martina, they actually have to mark Santa Martina. That's past our landing field to come back. What can be a little bit challenging, because to fly into Santa Martina you need at least about 1,400 meters or something like that, 1,500 meters to mark Santa Martina without any trouble, and then you just race back home. But that's just a short another 15 kilometers. But from Chada to Santa Martina straight line, he has 73 kilometers, and 73 kilometers, that's straight line, but he has to come back to the ridges and fly along the ridges, so it's a little bit more of distance he has to fly. So here we can see he made a safe mark of turn point 5, and we can see he just turned around 180 degrees. To fly back where he was coming from. He will cross with Thomas and Gilles. Here we have the view of Marius flying back to the ridges. He's not actually flying straight back to the one he came from here. He's going for the next one. You can see that with this altitude, he feels safe Okay, yeah. And as we have a 3-minute delay here, I was just advised that Marius is climbing, so looks like he actually decided. If you look at his track, this is interesting. This is what we glider pilots sometimes do. We take one decision, and halfway through that course of decision, we decide, well, we better do the other thing. So he turned about 30 degrees to the right. He might have seen Thomas and Jill's maybe either circling or something, and he decided to go to one ridge that puts him a little bit farther away, but to make it safe to get the energy from there. We got. We just saw how they crossed. Marius crossed his track with Jills and Thomas Gostner. Now let's see what is Marius' decision here. He has to fly back to Santiago, and I'm wondering what he's deciding, if he found some lift or not. We have him here circling now in this thermal. He's flying together there with Hans Weiner, not together, but Hans Weiner is approaching that area. Hans Weiner definitely will see Marius. Maybe he tries to join him in that thermal. He's still climbing 4 meters. It's a nice thermal. It is right now 5:36 in the afternoon. And we are 2 hours and 36 minutes into the race. I will shortly the two-dimensional screen, what the gliders are doing here. That is Marius Pluskauskas. 20 seconds ago, clean signal. He's at 2,480 meters. And Papa Quebec Whiskey, we can see it here, and we can see this is Papa Quebec Zulu, Hans Weiner just marked, and this must be Thomas Gostner. It is actually Thomas Gostner, and he was flying together with Gilles Navas. So we have here Marius Puszkauskas, Thomas Gostner, Gilles Navas, and Hans Weiner. These are the 4 pilots that we know and have clean signals that are leading the race for now. We, as I mentioned, don't have a signal of Jürgen Wenzel, who has been flying quite well in the last days. And in the leading table, he's in place number 4. With 26 points. So if he makes a good result today, he can be the surprise of the day. Definitely one of the surprises today is René Vidal, who's far, far, far behind. René Vidal, we can see René in this view where we still have the leader, what we guess is the leader, Marius Puszkauskas. We can see René far, far behind, still working to mark turn point number 3 and 4. These pilots already marked turn point number 5 and are flying now back north, just past the glider port to mark Santa Martina and go for 3K in the finish line. So Marius is doing a great job. He was at the beginning of the race not doing so well. Uh, if we remember, he had a little bit of a setback there, and now he's leading the race with a comfortable altitude, 2,500 meters. I will show you a view of what he is seeing out of his cockpit, flying along these ridges. He's approaching the El Blanco, the Cerro El Blanco, Mountain El Blanco, the white one. We talked about the white one yesterday, about the good and bad things about that area. And with this altitude, he definitely will not have to climb or circle anymore, even though he has to still fly past the glider port towards Santa Martina and then come back. But with the 2,400, 2,500 meters he will actually pass El Blanco, top of El Blanco. And that is a little bit some of that fuse altitude we have if we have to still make a little bit of a further flight past the glider port. So he's comfortable with that altitude. He will definitely not fly very fast, but he will not spend any time in circling or climbing thermals with this altitude. He's being followed by Thomas Gostner, as we said, and Jill Navas and Hans Weiner. We can see Marius is about to approach El Blanco, and Thomas Gostner is a few kilometers behind with Jill Navas. Thomas Gostner is a little bit higher than Marius. I wonder if Thomas and Jill decided to climb here. It looks like they actually decided to make a climb. They're being now followed by Hans Weiner. Thomas and Jill's flying side by side. They got a nice thermal. Did about 3, 4, 5 turns in there. I bet this that Hans Weiner saw Jill Navas and Thomas Gostner circling, and he's going for that thermal. We can see he started that thermal right now. If we take his information, we can see he's thermaling a 4 to 5, 6 meter thermal. These are the thermals that we just definitely love when we find them in a competition like this. It is one of the greatest feelings when you get a 6 meter thermal in a competition like this. It just makes you scream. But Hans, I bet he knows that he's doing a great flight. He's has had Thomas inside Gostner. He has had Jill Navas inside, and also has Marius Plushkauskas inside. So I bet he knows that he's doing well. And he hasn't seen René Vidal. So good for Hans. Very nice. Hans has been flying now for a couple of years here, but has taken this seriously in the last years. He has been involved a lot with the organization of this competition and other competitions. He's in the team of the of organizing the races, also the races for the rookies and the young ones. And he was a very close friend of Thomas Reich, who had his accident in this competition 2 years ago. So good for Hans. That makes him feel good. He knows he's close to El Blanco, where his good friend had his accident. And he's climbing that tremendous thermal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 turns. And he already climbed about 500 meters in this thermal. Still climbing strong, 6 meters, 6 meters and a half. Fantastic, beautiful. Very nice for Hans. Let's see how Marius is doing in progressing in his flight back to Santiago. We have Gilles and Thomas Gosner approaching El Blanco. Here we have Papa Quebec Whiskey. They will cross each other. The alarms will start to scream now. And we'll have they will have a loud beep. And a little bit further ahead, they just crossed there, perfect. And a little bit further ahead, we will have Marius. He just approached the ridge of El Apoyo del Blanco with a very comfortable altitude of 2,300 meters, not stopping, not circling, pressing ahead, flying 150, 160 kilometers per hour, and just following the ridge. The view out of his cockpit right now is fantastic. He has very good altitude, comfortable altitude to go for next turn point, Santa Martina. For a general view of these gliders that are looks like leading this, we have Marius, followed by Thomas Gostner and Jill Navas, and shortly behind is Papa Quebec Solu with Hans Weiner, and Papa Quebec Whiskey actually has to fly out to Chadar and come back. René Vidal is still up there at the turn point number 4 and 3. We can see René now, he's going for turn point number 4, so it is a sign that he marked obviously number 3. Now he's at 2,900 meters. And I hope he does the right thing now here, but it doesn't look like he has marked the turn point. No. But again, there we have little sometimes opening glitches in the information, and this doesn't mean that he actually didn't flew through that circle. He might have touched it, and then it's okay. But what we see on the screen here is that he didn't touch the circle. But that is René. But as we said, sometimes we have little glitches in the signal, and so we shouldn't worry about that. But he's not pretty high. He has still some way to go. And he knows he has to fly all the way out there from turn point number 4, Livare Sur, to Chada. That's, well, considerably 66 kilometers, and he's not really high. So I bet he will be pretty angry when he comes back home. Let's see the rest of the gliders. Marius leading the thing, followed by Thomas Gosnus and Jill Navas, and Hans Weiner shortly behind them. Hans is approaching now El Blanco. Gilles and Thomas just over the Pollo El Blanco, and we're getting highs and signals from one of our competitors, Mr. Dr. Mario Reyes, who looks like gave up, and he's happily landed, but he has a big smile on his face, so had a good time. That's the important thing about this. Even if you're competing, have a good time and never go over the edge. Marius is approaching the San Ramon, and with this altitude, 1,800 meters, he will just do a clean glide towards Santa Martina, and after that turn around and come back to 3K and come back. Another glider that we see here on the screen is Arturo Diez. Arturo Diez is flying a mini Nimbus, and he's at 4,200 meters up there. And I want to know where that is that he has this altitude and what he's doing. I bet he's just having a great flight. Let's shortly visit Arturo Diez. We haven't had him on the screen, but Arturo, yes, he marked turn point number 1 and turn point number 2, and he's coming back on an area called, that is just on the west of Aconcagua. We can see the Aconcagua here, and Arturo's just taking the energy of these ridges. It's called Cerro La Parva, and he's flying along this. Then he will cross to the south, and I bet he will try to make it. He's persistent and a very, very conservative pilot. He's not the fastest one, but he always tries to make it. He used to fly a Nimbus 4 single-seater, a beautiful glider, and that he always enjoyed a lot. And now he's flying this mini Nimbus. Meanwhile, Marius Plushauskis is already on the ridge of San Ramon on the east side of the city of Santiago. You can see the city of Santiago here. The green line here, finish, is where we are located. There are a few flags here on the ground already. Yankee Victor is Nicolas Becerra, and number 3 is here on the ground, Dr. Mario Reyes. And well, Marius has a clean signal, and let's see what his view is out of his cockpit. He's approaching El Abanico. With a very comfortable altitude of almost 2,000 meters, flying conservative, 150 kilometers per hour, not very fast, but just using the LNG of whatever is left there on these ridges. I can see the ridge from where I'm transmitting, and if I focus my eyes, I bet I can see him too. We just have to remember that is what we see 3 minutes ago. So he's a little bit further ahead, and if I focus my eyes, I should see him crossing on our east side now towards the last turn point, Santa Martina. I will give you a view of what they actually have to do here with this last part of the race. I'll put you out of the cockpit of Marius. He's flying along this ridge. This is about where the ridge ends, and he has to cross this valley. This is the valley of the Mapocho River. This is where we located, the finish line. And he has to cross this valley, mark this turn point, and then race back 3K and cross the finish line. The reason he needs a little bit of altitude is that you will see this here, is that this turn point, Santa Martina, is in the upper part of the dormitory area of Santiago called La Dehesa. So you just cannot fly in there low. You need the altitude to just make it clean, a clean crossing on top of this. It's a sport resort. And actually, you can see that Marius took a turn there on a thermal, not a very strong one, but I guess that he gained a few meters. Not actually a lot if we look at his trace. It's not a lot that he gained, but he made a figure of 8 to see if something comes out of it. With 2,100 meters, that's his altitude right now. I would say that if he flies conservative, not too fast, he will make it without any bigger issues. The altitude you need when you reach the turn point of Santa Martina is about 1,000. Let me make this right. 1,700 meters, 1,700 meters. So if he flies it conservative now, he will reach it with enough altitude just to mark it and come back home. Well, unfortunately, we lost a lot of viewers today because of this energy glitch we had. Um, but well, things that happen. We can see Marius is still flying along the last corners of the Cerro San Ramon. I'll give you a view in terms of what the other gliders are doing from where we are. We almost above here, a view above the finish line. We can see Marius. He has to cross on the east side, the valley of the Mapucho River, and he's followed by Jill Navas and Thomas Gosner. They actually caught up quite well, and they are at the same altitude at Marius, so they're doing exactly the same. And a little bit further back is Hans Weiner in Papa Quebec Zulu and Papa Quebec Whiskey, who is Sergio Campos. That also has done a very nice flight by Hans Weiner and Sergio Campos. Fantastic flight. Unfortunate what happened to René Vidal, that he got caught in the area of the copper mine of La Mina Andina, and that he couldn't make it over the pass through the Olivares Valley. I bet that was his strategy. Hans Weiner used that strategy, and it worked very well for them. It will be interesting to talk to Marius if he did that same flight through the valley of El Olivares. I would say yes, because we never had a signal from him, and we did have a signal from Jill Navas, who decided to not to fly easternly on the Olivares River, but stay on the west side and fly over the ski resorts. So my guess is that Marius actually flew through the Olivares Valley. Again, these are all guesses, but with the information that I have and the knowledge of the area, I think that I'm not totally wrong with a guess like that. This is a view of Marius flying just over the, just crossed the Mapocho River, and he's flying towards almost the last turn point number 6, the sport resort Santa Martina. With this altitude, he should be safe. Anyhow, he will get some lift, hopefully, at these ridges that he will be approaching soon, and so he can fly into that shallow area and mark it and just race back to 3K in the finish line.
JBOS appeared. Apareció. Jürgen Benson.
Jürgen Wenzel showed up.
Yeah, he's behind Thomas and.
Excellent. That is a good thing. Maybe we can find him here on our green screen.
1500 meters.
Okay, here we have the gliders. This is Puskauskas Marius, and this is Jürgen Wenzel. So Jürgen is 4th, Gilles Navas 2nd, Thomas Gostner. Hard to say if Thomas is 2nd or Gilles is 2nd. Thomas has 1,700 meters of altitude, and yeah, he's about almost 150 meters higher than Gilles Navas. So Thomas 2nd, 3rd Gilles. Let's see, what is the altitude of Jürgen? Also 1,500 meters. So kind of tough. I'll put this screen away because this is a little bit further ahead of what we see on our 3D screen. Marius, we have again a little bit of a glitch in your signal. Unfortunate that this is happening now at the last part of the race. I will try to get Gilles and Thomas in the screen here. There is Gilles Navas, 1L, and GT Thomas Gostner. Marius is out here with a glitch. I think that actually he flew through the turn point, and that he's flying back now here. Hard to say, or if he's looking for some thermals and has not marked the turn point yet. I just can't resist it. I have to take a look at this. This is Jürgen. Let me see the track. There is a glitch here. There's an opening. We don't know if he went through that turn point or not. We missed him here, and he showed back up here, 3K, and finished. He just overflew the field. So we don't know if he went through Santa Martina or not. This is Gilles. Okay, this is Gilles' track. And this is Thomas Gostner. Let me see if I can get a track of Thomas. This is Thomas Gostner. So, Marius definitely flew through the finish line. We just have to hope that he marked Santa Martina. He's, I can see him out of the window here. He is on the downwind track. And yeah, Very unfortunate what happened to Rene Vidal. Very unfortunate. Um, he got stuck after turn point number 2 in the area of the copper mine of La Andina, and just couldn't find a connection to get back up in the better air, and so he got really, really, really in a very sad situation. Unfortunate for him, and hopefully he isn't too angry with his action. As we're coming close here to an end with this race, this Grand Prix qualifying Grand Prix in Santiago at the glider port of Vitacura, once again I want to especially thank everybody that has worked and developed this OGN studio and live transmission system. Angel Casado with his team in Spain that worked on the transmitters, that worked on the antennas, and that worked on all the small details that this functions. To date, that we got an interruption was not a fault of the system, it was a fault of our electrical system. And so I really want to thank everybody there that actually makes it possible to see a race like this almost live with a very, very short setback in time. Also, very close. A lot of gratitude and lots of thanks to Alejandro Chanes, Alex Chanes, who's sitting right here next to me, and his team of young people that have worked on this. I just can't mention them all, but it is a big team, and there's a lot of support and people working with them. There are private helicopters that have to fly the antennas up to the mountains, and batteries and solar panels and a lot of cables and stuff like that. Remember that all these mountains, they get hit pretty hard in winter with storms and snow. So they stay up there. They also work during the winter. You have to service them. So thanks a lot to all these people. And as we're coming here to an end, we can see that Marius crossed the finish line. He's being followed by Thomas Gostner, Jill Navas, and we have a pretty close certain knowledge that Jürgen Wenzel is also in that pack behind Thomas Gostner and Jill Navas. So he's fourth, and that would mean that Marius is taking the lead, I would say. That's kind of hard, because Thomas Gostner, if he ends up being second, he's actually winning this qualifying Grand Prix with 1 point, having Marius on the second place. Let us just see what happens with Thomas Gostner and Jill Navas here. Who comes in first? We have them here on the screen now. We will concentrate on them as Marius has already finished his race. So let's race with Thomas and Jill's. Okay, here we have Thomas and Jill's. Thomas is marking 3K before Jill's. They are at the same altitude. So Thomas will be crossing the finish line as the second place for today's race. With that, he gains 8 points, and he will be adding up a total of 41 points. And Marius, who was third with 30 points, get 10. So he will add up a total of 40 points, being on second place. And unofficially, Gil Navas will earn 7 points for today's race, and he will add up a total of 31 points. And we don't know about Rene how many points he will have, but definitely he is being thrown out of his second place, and most surely also out of his third or fourth place, as Jürgen Wenzel might be the fourth today with 6 points, and he will be ending up having a total of 32 points, being then in a total of the third place on the podium today. So this is unofficial, but of what we have seen here, this is what it would look like. I'm getting here advised also that Marius is getting 11 points as it is the last race of the Grand Prix. If that is so, we will have a funny situation. Both pilots with 41 points, Thomas Gostner and Marius Ploskalskis. So both of them will have a first place. Don't know how that is sorted out, but definitely with 11 pilots, 11 total pilots in this competition, we will have 2 qualified pilots for the Grand Prix, the final Grand Prix. We can see on the screen that Gilles and Thomas, they sorted themselves out to land and find who lands first. Let us take a view on who else is in the air and finishing this race. We have Hans Weiner, who's marking Santa Martina and will be shortly down here. Papa Quebec Whiskey with Sergio Campos approaching San Ramon, and in the far south we can see the flag of René Vidal marking the turn point number 5, Chada, and making his final glide back home, also with 1,700 meters. He should be okay with a final glide back home. There's only one more glider in the air further north, of whom we don't have a signal right now. That is Arturo Diaz. But now Arturo actually showed up here. It looks like he decided not to finish the race, and he's gliding straight back home. So we have him here on the screen also. So all of the gliders are in reach of the field, and we should have them all landed here on our field shortly in a few minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry again for the interruption. Hopefully we keep continuing adding more fans to this racing system, and having more pilots participating in future qualifying Grand Prix here in Chile, or if we have a chance again to maybe held another grand final in the future. So for now, this is it for us. Thank you very much for following this, and leave your messages and comments on this transmission. It will be kept on the page. You can review it, and please comment anything you would like to improve this and make it more fun. For everybody, a very good afternoon, a very good evening for everybody who's in Europe right now. Enjoy your winter. We are having a good time here with hot weather. Bye-bye for now.